Okay, this is an exciting day here. I got a shipment today that I would like to share with the audience who cares enough about this kind of stuff. I'm actually following the lead of another YouTube video taker who did the same thing. I'm not as professional as this guy is. He's an audiophile. Steve Hoffman, I think it is. I don't know what his name is, but he's got an entire series of videos about remastered material, albums and CDs. And today I got a shipment in the FedEx truck from Acoustic Sounds, which is a organization based out of Kansas that is audiophile heaven. If you're an audiophile, I urge you to check their website out. They sell CDs, SACDs, Blu-ray audio, vinyl, and of course equipment. If you want to spend up to $1,800 for one speaker or $12,000 for a pair of speakers, that's the place to go. Anyway, enough of Acoustic Sounds. In this package, we have some albums that I ordered as a Christmas gift, and I am opening them up now. Not very delicately, as you can tell, like a gorilla would open up a package. And what we have here are remastered final copies of Beatles. All right, so how many times in your life are you going to be buying Beatles records? If you're a Beatles fan, probably numerous times. I have been buying Beatles albums since I was 9 or 10 years old. So I've been a longtime fan of the Beatles. How anybody who's got even a passing interest in music should like the Beatles. People who say they hate the Beatles, I don't call them friends, so it's a litmus test for me. If you say you hate the Beatles, I don't really want to know you. So not that that's going to make anybody lose any sleep. But anyway, this is their catalog. This is the Acoustic Sounds catalog that they include with all of their packages. And it's a wellspring of information. And of course, the Beatles are right here on the inside cover. And it's got this stuff too, which, how can you not like bubble wrap, right? So anyway, here are the albums, okay? This is Please Please Me. And this is their first album that was released in the United States and in England. Actually, I think it came out in England first. The United States, there's a long history on how the Beatles albums were released in the United States. The first couple of albums the Beatles put out in the United States bear hardly any resemblance to the British versions. And this is the British version. And these pressings that are on the market right now, the vinyl, are all the British versions. So this is Please Please Me. This is their first record released in England, and it contains, of course, the song Please Please Me, as well as Love Me Do, and I Saw Her Standing There. The first song on this album is I Saw Her Standing There. And of course, if you know the song, and who doesn't know that song, they start off, 1, 2, 3, 4. What better way to start the first album of the Beatles than Paul McCartney counting down on that song? So it's also got a lot of covers. Their first couple of albums had numerous covers. They didn't have as much material as they would have in their later career. And of course, Twist and Shout is on here too, which is their most popular cover song, and one of their most popular songs, period, even though that wasn't their song. Everybody knows Twist and Shout. So anyway, this is their first record, and I gotta be very, very careful when I open it, because you've got to inspect these records when you get them, because you want to make sure that they're not defective. Breaking the seal does devalue the album. These albums are only going to be out for a limited time, these remastered records. They're going to stop making them probably in about 5 years. So this is a collector's item. And 20 years from now, this thing is probably going to be worth $500. Now, of course, I probably won't be alive in 20 years, so it doesn't really matter, but it's if you're very young and you're getting into collecting vinyl, that's something to keep in mind. What is the price of these vinyl records? They usually go for about $24. The regular single albums, which is Please Please Me, and all of their other albums, all the Rubber Soul and all the other ones they've done that are single albums, about $24. They're double records, which are the white album and of course the red album and the blue album, the greatest hits albums. They run about $35 to $40, I think. There's another one that I'll get to in a moment after I break the seal on this. Anyway, I'm going to try to do it very delicately. I'm not doing it very delicately. I'm doing it like a gorilla, as per usual. I'm so anxious to see this. So I'm going to keep the cellophane on the album because it does protect it a little bit. But in order to get the album out, you've got to break the seal. That goes without saying. So anyway, so the seal is now broken. So this album is officially devalued a little bit. But you also want to make sure it's not a bad copy. They did press a couple of bad copies of these. And of course, they give you a refund if you do, if they exchange it for you if it is defective or if it's a bad copy. These are analog pressings, so things can go wrong with analog. So we'll inspect it. I'll take it out. And it's very heavy vinyl. I mean, this is significant. Even if you don't know a lot about records, or if you just have a passing knowledge about records, you can tell when you hold this that it's a pretty significant piece of vinyl. It's not your typical album. And it's also the Parlophone label. This is the original Parlophone label. Parlophone was a label in England that was known for comedy records, party records they called them, and they happened to sign the Beatles at the time, and this is the original Parlophone label. They changed their label after this, so this is the only Beatles album that has the old Parlophone label on it. So that in itself is the reason why you'd want to have this. Of course, the idea is to have them all. I don't have all of them yet. I'm not that wealthy. I'm not wealthy, period. I know some people in my family would probably kill me if they knew I was spending my money on this sort of thing, but what can you do? Here's a little insert that goes inside. It tells you the history about the mono. Why mono? That's the way the Beatles were supposed to be heard, mono. In fact, John Lennon himself, they went stereo because that was the thing to do in the late 60s, but John Lennon and the other Beatles had indicated that they much preferred their mono material. So this is Please Please Me. I'm not going to bore you with all the other albums, but I am going to show you this. This is the Mono Masters. This is a triple album. There are 3 albums in this. And this thing I got because I got a gift card for Christmas. I used the gift card for this. $69 is how much this costs. So it is pricey. It's the priciest thing they have as far as these remasters are concerned, but definitely worth it. These are the songs that were released as singles that weren't on albums per se. And this one I'm going to have to probably break the entire cellophane because in order to get the albums out, you've got to. I did this with the white album too. You've got to break the cellophane. There's no getting around that. So this one has now been officially devalued by a few dollars, but it's important to make sure the vinyl looks good. And look at this, wonderful pictures here on the inside of the Beatles. Long story, long history. This in itself is like a book. It's like having a book is what it is. The Mono Masters, the original single version of Love Me Do, which is different from the version on this album. There was, I guess, a single version made. And it's got all the singles that we all know and love that were never made it to a regular record. Hey Jude, Revolution, Lady Madonna, Hey Bulldog, Get Back, the original Get Back with Billy Preston. That was actually the single. The version that's on the Let It Be album is a different version of Get Back. And it's got German language versions of I Want to Hold Your Hand and She Loves You, I Call Your Name, I Feel Fine, I'm Down, Paperback Writer. I mean, we all know these songs. And they're all on here because all those songs I mentioned never made it onto a proper Beatles album. They were released, of course, as greatest hits on Greatest Hits records. And there was also an album put out called Hey Jude, which I'm going to show you because I have that on CD. This Hey Jude album was actually pressed in America in 1970 after they broke up. And you probably have seen this cover. And this was released on CD for the very first time this past year. And this was not an official album though by the Beatles. This is like a greatest hits, a quasi greatest hits record, because they wanted to have Hey Jude on an LP, and it hadn't appeared on an LP before. And then, of course, a few years later, these came out. These came out in 1973, which I'm sure most people have seen. The Blue Album and the Red Album. These are the earlier hits, and these are the later hits. They also put out something called One, Beatles One, which came out, I think, in 2000, which was a greatest hits record. So the Beatles never die. That one record they put out in 2000 was at #1 on the album chart for like 3 months. So people, they're timeless. I mean, the stuff they're putting out now, I dare say, will never have a lasting impact of the Beatles. I mean, there's just no getting around that. So anyway, getting back to this, I'm not going to bore you because I don't want to bore my audience, but I'm going to take a look at the label here. These were pressed on Apple. This is the Apple label, the short-lived Apple, which was the Beatles record label that they launched and was not successful. They were musicians, not businessmen. They found out really quickly that they should stick with making music. So anyway, the Apple label is definitely worth having on this. So it's a beautiful thing. It really is. It's just a wonderful set. I'm very happy to have it, and I'm not going to bore you with the other ones I have because that's just the way it is. But you were here with me unveiling these, and I thank you for joining this historic event of the unveiling of these albums.